important we get our people in the House. You know, that's it's an institution of power that needs to be broaden its sort of knowledge and responsiveness to community needs.
Tonight, what happened election night? Some Indigenous leaders analyzed the results of the pandemic campaign.
I really wasn't looking for placement even. I really wanted the issues to be talked about in a real way and dialogue to happen.
A leader from the Rat Portage First Nation who lost the Kenora riding says she's learned a lot from the experience.
Our youth need something positive now.
And the race is on to bring Canada Winter Games to the Yukon. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. With the Liberals back in power with minority government, here's Daryl Stranger with a look at what Manitoba's Indigenous leaders are saying about the election.
Please welcome your leader, the Prime Minister of Canada.
Indigenous leaders in Manitoba are wasting no time laying out what they want to see from the Trudeau government this time around. Manitoba Kiwi-Tanoe Ogi Maganak Grand Chief Garrison Satie released a statement with MKO's key priorities, which include addressing the impacts of hydro projects, adequate housing, and better internet connectivity. There is much work to be done on the path forward to truth and reconciliation. We must work efficiently and cooperatively to close the gaps between First Nations and non-Indigenous communities. Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand said another term for the Liberals is a win for Indigenous people.
I think it's good for all Indigenous people in Canada. As you know, the reconciliation relationship we had with Indigenous people was probably the most profound in the context of investment and priority of ensuring Indigenous people were top of mind around cabinet, top of mind on investments in the budgets. So when you look at it overall, it's definitely a big win for Indigenous people in this country.
Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Arlen Dumas also released a statement. The AMC and its member First Nations are eager to continue the ongoing and complex work of reconciliation with some consistency and continuity with the Liberal minority government, as well as with the other parties who had strong platforms on First Nations rights during the election. Manitoba had a few Indigenous candidates running in this election, including Dan Vandal and Leah Gazan. While they won their ridings, other candidates like Melissa Chung-Mowat and Shirley Robinson fell short.
You know, it's important we get our people in the House. You know, that's it's an institution of power that needs to be broaden its sort of knowledge and responsiveness to community needs.
Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Well, we want to hear what you think about the election results and a third term of Liberals. Here's how you can continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can also leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News and join the conversation and see our latest stories. Well, the Conservatives will continue to represent the Kenora riding in the House of Commons, but an Indigenous lawyer from Rat Portage First Nation came in second as an NDP candidate in a riding that typically flipped between Liberals and Tories. Here's Michelle Karlenzig with the surprise second place finisher.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that's awesome. Yeah. I'm excited.
At the start of election night on Monday, Kenora's NDP candidate, Janine Seymour, was in high spirits. The Ojibwe lawyer from Rat Portage First Nation was in the lead for the start of the evening.
So to come here and to gather with the community and all my loved ones is just so powerful.
In the end, Conservative incumbent Eric Malello held the Kenora riding, which covers northwestern Ontario. Seymour came in second, behind by roughly 3,000 votes, and says the issues facing First Nation people in the riding was number one.
I really wasn't looking for placement even. I really wanted the issues to be talked about in a real way and dialogue to happen.
Seymour's second place still holds some importance, however. The riding has switched back and forth from Conservative to Liberal since 2003. According to the Ontario Human Rights Commission, Kenora has one of the highest rates of homelessness in the province of Ontario, many of which are Indigenous. Seymour says she tried to advocate for those voices during her campaign. Evelyn Finlayson is a friend of Seymour, and we asked her if Indigenous voters will be a game changer for future elections.
It has to be, you know, because all the other, sorry, I don't not going to swear, but all the other guys have broken promises. So it's kind of nice that we get our Indigenous people in there and see what they can do, and and hopefully make those changes, right?
Seymour says she's not finished using an open dialogue with MP Eric Malello.
I did believe everything that I said of wanting to work together, collaboration, his supporters, my supporters. Let's start that dialogue.
Seymour says she doesn't know if she'll run again in the next federal election. Michelle Karlenzig, APTN National News, Kenora.
Well, for more on election results and where we go from here, we're joined by Jody Calahoo-Stonehouse, a former candidate for National Chief for the Assembly of First Nations, and she's joining us from Edmonton. Okay, Jody, let's start with your overall reaction to this election campaign and the results.
Well, it's not surprising that we landed exactly where we launched from, and in the meantime spent $610 million of taxpayers' money.
Well, and I enjoyed you being on APTN National News for our live election night coverage. You had made a point of how that money could have been spent. Give us some examples.
Oh, there's so many ways. When we see the inequities in education, in housing, and water, there are so many ways we could have invested and made a difference in people's lives, and particularly around our children in care, language revitalization. The list is endless on the work that we need to do in this state and with this country and with our nations. And that $610 million could have done so much for our people. However, I do look forward to the $610 that they're going to be investing to demonstrate that we are the priority relationship, that we are the most important relationship that Canada has, as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said.
We're still waiting on official results, but despite a record number of Indigenous candidates running, it looks like the number of elected to the House of Commons is going to remain at 10. But there will be some new faces. Who are you excited about?
I'm really excited about Blake Desjardins. He's Edmonton, Giesbrecht region. And what I think is really exciting is that he had to work extremely hard. The PC had the stronghold. Kerry Diotte was in that position for quite a few years, and he just demonstrated perseverance, determination, and he overcame every obstacle. And I'm really excited to see what he brings to the forefront.
Indigenous issues were dominating the news cycle before the election. We have the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation coming up. Do you think that Indigenous issues are going to be a priority for this new version of the Trudeau minority government, but also just stay on the radar for Canadians?
Absolutely. I think we are going to be on the forefront for quite a while, particularly as Canadians start to grapple with the reality of genocide on the Indigenous people in the country. And, Kamloops 215 has opened up that wound, not only in our nations, but for Canadians to accept the reality of the relationship. And so now it's not only First Nations putting pressure on the Canadian state, it's also their own citizens. So, which makes, time to leverage and position ourselves to be ready. What are the changes that we need in our nations? What is our plan? What do we expect? What do we need? And be prepared, and to hold the Canadian state accountable to those plans that we have prepared for them.
Well, it'll be a fun next few years. Hopefully it's more than 2 years before we have another one of these elections called. Hopefully we make it 4. Jody, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you, Melissa. Take care. XA.
The Northwest Territories has the highest rate of COVID-19 cases per capita, more than anywhere else in the country, with over 240 active cases and a second death from the virus in a month. This afternoon, the territorial government gave an update on public health rules in Yellowknife and surrounding area. Restrictions first implemented on September 8th have been extended 10 days with tighter measures to contain the spread of the virus. Schools continue online learning only. Outdoor gatherings are limited to 25 and indoor to 10. Non-essential businesses will also be affected.
We are facing the most difficult time since this pandemic began. The outbreak, as you've seen, is fast moving and the situation changes daily. We need to respond by taking the CPHO's advice to adjust public health measures. That means what we say today may have to change again tomorrow, depending on how the situation evolves.
Well, Saskatchewan broke its record for COVID-19 hospitalizations for the third straight day in a row. There's currently 262 patients in hospital with the virus, including 4 children under age 11. 54 are in the ICU. The provincial government says 74% of those in hospital are not fully vaccinated. The province reported another 369 new infections yesterday and 5 more deaths. Well, people across Ontario and New Brunswick who are heading to the gym or going to a concert will now have to show proof that they've had their COVID vaccines. A vaccine passport system is now in effect for both provinces as of this morning.
Knowing that going into social spaces, I'll be around other people who are vaccinated definitely makes me feel safer.
In Ontario, proof of vaccination is required for places like restaurants, gyms, movie theaters, and sporting events. For now, people need to show their vaccination receipts by printing them out or downloading them to their phones. They're available through the provincial website. The province plans to have a QR code and app ready by October 22nd. One restaurant manager in Toronto says they'll back up their staff if there's any issues with customers.
I've told all of the staff that, like our owner and myself as well as our GM who's away right now, we will back you guys up. If there's a customer giving you an issue, we will speak to that customer. We have security on standby. We will call the police on you if you're giving the staff an issue. It is not our fault that this is happening, and we will enforce it if we have difficult customers.
In New Brunswick, people will also have to show proof of vaccination for businesses and events like restaurants, gyms, and indoor festivals. But they're also needed for weddings, funerals, and for visiting long-term care facilities. Anyone coming into the province also has to pre-register and show proof of vaccination. And mask rules are back in New Brunswick. They're mandatory in all public indoor spaces. Well, we need to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to go on a salmon fishing adventure in northern Quebec. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Moisie River in northeastern Quebec is renowned for its salmon. For decades, fishermen have come from all over the world to fish in it. But the Moisie is part of Innu territory, and now the Innu are reclaiming the river that they call Mishta Shipu with a little help from their ancestors. This is part one of a series by Sylvia Ambrose, narrated by Jeff Dorn.
Mishta Shipu.
This river, known as Mississippi to the Innu, is so beloved in their culture it has been immortalized in this popular song. Mississippi translates as Great River. It has been the gateway of innumerable portages that have nourished the Innu for several millenniums. Innu families continue to use this over 300-kilometer natural highway to reach and occupy their land. With many tributaries, Mitsubishi, or Moisie River as it's known in Quebec, could take you just about anywhere in this vast Innu territory they call Nitaasinan.
À travers mes recherches, j'ai vu qu'il y avait plusieurs possibilités là, dans le territoire quand même, là, puis à travers en parlant avec d'autres aînés, puis ils ne prenaient pas juste la rivière Moisie.
Johan Jerome is a student for Laval University studying geography. He works in the summer for the Washat Macminutniam Council, researching the history of the river. Jerome describes it as a passion and says his mission is to reopen the old portage trails along the Moisie.
La rivière Sainte-Marguerite, puis la rivière Macpaille, Saint-Jean, toutes les rivières étaient utilisées par les Innu quand même parce que pour tout dépendamment le gibier, ils couraient après le gibier, après le caribou pour c'était ça pour survivre.
The portage trails were dotted with several stopping points. It is these same trails that the Innu are now attempting to renew by making expeditions.
Quand je trouvais à travers mes recherches, je trouvais dans les cartes juste les toponymes, là, on voit que c'est quand même assez large. Je n'ai pas fait encore tout le côté, mais je sais juste en regardant ça, il y a d'autres portages qu'on est en train d'étudier puis qu'on veut rouvrir prochainement, peut-être dans les années à venir. Tu sais, il y a le portage du Cacadiot qui est très... c'est difficile, là.
One of the most important sites in the history of the Moisie River is the site des Pêches. Located in the middle of the river, this is a place where the pass is something you can touch. After using poles to move against the current of the river, the Innu would plant them in the riverbed once they were no longer needed. Jerome describes the first time he reached the pole site known as Kagajat.
Puis les gens, ils ressentent une grosse émotion quand ils arrivent là. C'est vrai, tu ressens ça, regarde, une fierté en plus en tant qu'Innu d'avoir vu ça, puis de voir un tel site. Là. Puis souvent, on nous dit, tu sais, à l'école, on apprend, à l'école québécoise, c'est comme si on n'existait pas. Tu sais.
Jerome says the preservation of the poles is due to the water and the type of soil of the riverbed.
Cet été, c'était justement ça, notre projet de recherche était axé sur ça, sur la datation des perches, puis on est monté avec des spécialistes. Pour l'instant, on n'a pas de date précise, mais selon les experts, ils disaient que c'est minimum 300 ans.
Jerome is confident that they are much older, but at the minimum, they are irrefutable evidence of the Innu occupation of the river, which is important because while most people now recognize the Moisie as part of the ancestral Innu territory, access to certain parts was refused for long periods to the Innu by private landowners. Some still refuse to recognize Innu rights here, but for Jerome, it's about more than the land. It's about culture and identity.
C'est pas juste le site qui est important, c'est tout le territoire, l'utilisation, l'histoire, notre histoire, de restaurer notre histoire, puis de donner ça aux bancs d'école, puis même en commençant par nos écoles à nous autres, puis parler de tout ça. C'était quoi? C'était juste une petite partie, là, on pourrait dire, le mode de vie là, des chemins de portage, mais il y a d'autres choses qui embarquent aussi, les légendes, les histoires. Il y a beaucoup de choses à apprendre, puis de donner ça aux jeunes, sais-tu, de voir, de renforcer l'identité Innu, puis on est des grands nomades.
For For the next part of our Moisie River series, we will examine the importance of salmon in Innu culture. A story by Sylvie Amboise, APTN National News, Malinoutenam, Quebec.
Can't wait for part 2 of that. Well, it's time for another break, but we've got more news ahead. And here's a look at something that we're working on for you.
I'm Lee Wilson. Coming soon, we'll have a story from BC that looks at how current forestry practices help create a situation like the old growth protests at Fairy Creek.
We are right now in a situation where we have taken so much of the old forest that we are down to remnants in certain areas. And if we have any chance of managing for ecosystem health, we need to defer harvesting in those areas until we can build an ecosystem health plan.
This story soon on APTN National News.
Let's go now to our photo of the day. As the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation draws closer, our viewer Cheyenne French sent us this photo. It's of her home as she honors those in her family who were forced to attend residential schools, including her own father. We would love to see your photos of how you're honoring survivors or marking Truth and Reconciliation Day. You can send them to share at aptn.ca. You could be our next photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. To the east coast, we got 15 in sunshine for St. John's, 22 and sunny in Charlottetown. Inukjuak 5 and cloudy, Kuujjuaq 19 and some showers expected. Gaspé 23 and sunny skies, Montreal 25 and sunny. Cloud for North Bay, 21 expected, 15 for Sault Ste. Marie and some showers, 13 and showers for Sault Lookout, Kapuskasing 20 and cloud. Norway House 14 and sunny skies, 14 and cloud for Thompson, 19 and sunshine for Winnipeg, 21 and sunny in Brandon. Sunshine for southern Saskatchewan, 20 in Saskatoon, Yorkton and Regina expected there. 15 in sunshine for Buffalo Narrows, 15 in cloud in La Ronge. Showers in a high of 16 for Fort McMurray, 17 in showers for Grand Prairie. Sunny and 22 for Edmonton and Lethbridge, 23 and sunny for Calgary and Medicine Hat. Campbell River mix of sun and cloud, 18 degrees, same with Quesnel. 11 and cloud for Dease Lake, 14 and showers for Smithers. Watson Lake mix of sun and cloud and 13. Old Crow, chance of flurries and 3 degrees. Norman Wells cloud 9. Wati 11 and showers there. Port McPherson chance of flurries and 4. Tuk, chance of flurries and 3. 5 and sunny for Baker Lake. New Yacht 1 and sunshine. Kenate flurries and 1. Joe Haven 0 with a mix of sun and cloud. The City of Whitehorse is hoping to host the largest sporting event in Canada. Today, the city officially launched the 2027 Canada Winter Games bid process. It's going to take 13 months to complete. The Games could generate millions for the local economy and build new infrastructure in the territory. Whitehorse previously hosted the event in 2007, which drew more than 5,000 visitors. The Council of Yukon First Nations Grand Chief says the Games are a great opportunity for young aspiring athletes.
Our youth need something positive now that they can not only, like I said, build towards, but also the importance of building leadership and prosperity and success.
Well, it was 20 years ago that the memorial to Indigenous veterans was unveiled in downtown Ottawa. Adrienne Clarkson was the Governor General back then. Today it was Mary Simon's turn to lay a wreath at the foot of the monument. She is the first Indigenous person to become the Queen's representative in Canada. She paid her respects to Indigenous peacekeepers and soldiers, past, present, and future. People like Wendy Jacko, who is a veteran and comes from a family of veterans.
And we do remember the soldiers who fought for our freedom and values, who served far from home in peacekeeping missions and in horrific wars.
And my own little grandson, Keenan, has mentioned as well that he would also like to join the military. So throughout our history, we have been a family of military people. So it's been a great pleasure to be here today to join my colleagues and my friends for the 20th anniversary of this memorial dedicated to Aboriginal veterans.
Well, that is your Wednesday news. If you missed anything so far this week, you can go catch up at aptnnews.ca. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thanks so much for joining us and have a great night.
Hey,